I am 74 years old. 6 months ago, I buried my husband Arthur after 52 years of marriage. People tell you that losing a spouse is hard, but they don't tell you the specific kind of silence that follows. It isn't just the lack of noise. It is the weight of all the things you realized you should have said when the room was still full. I'm telling you this now because I have realized that for 50 years, I lived as if I had an infinite supply of tomorrows. I was wrong. I look at the house now, and it feels like a museum of a life we never quite got around to finishing. There are books on the shelf he meant to read. There is a set of china we only used 3 times because I was always waiting for an occasion that felt special enough. Now, I sit here and realize that a Tuesday morning with a man who loves you is the most special thing you will ever have. But I didn't know that then. I was too busy keeping the house clean. We met when I was 19. He was 21, a quiet man with steady hands. We did what everyone did back then. We got married, we worked, we bought a small house, and then a slightly larger one. Our lives were built on the idea of later. When the kids are older, we'll take that trip. When the mortgage is paid, we'll start sitting on the porch in the evenings. When we retire, we'll finally learn who we are again. In my 30s and 40s, I was a whirlwind of productivity. I took pride in it. I thought that being a good wife meant keeping a perfect schedule and making sure the bills were paid and the socks were matched. Arthur would come home from the firm tired, and he'd want to tell me about a conversation he had or a bird he saw on the way to the car. I'd listen, but I'd be moving. I'd be wiping the counter or checking the oven. I'd say, "That's nice, dear," without ever really looking into his eyes. I thought I was being a good partner by keeping our world running. I didn't realize I was ignoring the person the world was for. There was a decade there, maybe 15 years, where we lived like 2 ships passing in a very narrow hallway. We were polite. We were a team. But we were efficient, and efficiency is the enemy of intimacy. I remember him asking me once, around our 25th anniversary, if I wanted to just drive out to the coast for the night. I told him we couldn't. I had the community fundraiser that weekend, and the grass needed cutting, and it was just a lot of money for one night. I thought I was being sensible. I thought I was being the adult in the room. The cost of being sensible is that you end up with a very sensible, very empty life. The damage didn't happen in a single day. It was the thousands of tiny choices to prioritize the to-do list over the person. It was the way I'd go to bed early to be rested for work while he stayed up. And I never thought to just sit with him in the dark for 20 minutes. We assumed the foundation was solid, so we stopped tending to it. We focused on the roof and the paint job instead. Then came the retirement we had been waiting for. We were 65. We had the money. We had the time. But by then we had forgotten how to be together without a task to perform. We had 50 years of habit between us, and the habit was busy. We went on a cruise, and I spent half the time worrying about the house, and the other half looking at my watch. Arthur was slower then. His heart wasn't great, though we didn't know the extent of it. I found myself getting frustrated that he couldn't keep up with the pace I had set for us. I wish I could go back and slap myself for that. I wish I could tell that woman to just slow down and walk at his speed. The turning point wasn't a crash or a scream. It was a Tuesday morning. He was sitting in his armchair with his coffee. He looked at me and said he felt a bit dizzy. Within 4 hours, he was in the hospital. Within 3 days, he was gone. The clarity that comes in a hospital room is a cruel thing. It's like a light being turned on in a room you've lived in for decades, only to realize the furniture is all broken. I sat by his bed, holding that hand I'd held for 50 years, and I realized I didn't know what his favorite song was anymore. I knew his medication, I knew his Social Security number, and I knew how he liked his eggs. But I hadn't asked him what he was afraid of in 20 years. I had been so busy managing our life that I had stopped knowing him. He died on a Friday. I came home to a house that was perfectly clean, just the way I always wanted it. And I hated it. I hated every polished surface and every organized drawer, because they were the things I had chosen instead of him. I had traded hours of conversation for hours of chores. I had traded spontaneous dances in the kitchen for a well-maintained floor. Now I am 74, and I have all the time in the world. That is the great irony of old age. You finally get the time you worked so hard for, but the person you wanted to spend it with is a memory. I walk through the rooms and I see the ghost of the life we could have had if I had just been a little less responsible and a little more present. I'm not telling you this to be sad. I'm telling you because I see you. I see the younger people with their phones and their careers and their 5-year plans. You think you are building a future, and you are. But be careful not to build a future that is so big it leaves no room for the present. What I wish I had known is that the boring parts of your marriage are actually the most precious parts. The way he clears his throat, the way she leaves her shoes by the door. These things feel like annoyances when you think you have forever. When you are alone, they are the things you would give your entire bank account to experience one more time. Don't wait for the mortgage to be paid to be happy. Don't wait for the kids to leave the house to start dating your spouse again. The house will stay standing. The bills will get paid eventually. But the person sitting across from you is a temporary gift. We are all just walking each other to the exit. I spent 50 years preparing for a retirement that lasted less than 10. I spent my life saving up for a later that never truly arrived the way I pictured it. If I could do it over, I would have left the dishes in the sink. I would have let the grass grow an extra inch. I would have sat on that porch and looked at him until I knew every line on his face by heart. I don't have much time left myself. My doctor doesn't say it, but I can feel the engine slowing down. I'm not afraid. In a way, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I just hope that wherever he is, there are no clocks and no to-do lists. I hope I can just sit with him and finally, for the first time, not be in a hurry to get to the next thing. If this means anything to you, maybe tonight, don't worry about the chores. Just sit down. Look at the person you love. Truly look at them. Talk about nothing until the sun goes down. You think you're wasting time, but believe me, you're finally using it.